So I am. I think I have one episode, and then I will be caught up on the boys. Um, and it, it's hilarious. I don't think I don't think it's as funny as season one, but I think season one was just so completely unique, and I didn't know what to expect because I've never read the comics that it's based on.
I
But
haven't
I'm
either.
definitely liking the the dichotomy between the Homelander and Stormfront. Like that's gonna there's gonna be something that happens at some point in the season um, that's gonna kind of blow up. Um, but yeah, I'm liking it thus far. I still like the Deep. He's my favorite.
Yeah.
And his art.
So
when when he's on that whale, I was just like, oh shit, no,
yeah.
don't do it.
Well, okay. So yeah, no, so like that is so, so I spoiled myself because I read some of the
Okay.
comics, but or I didn't read the comics, but I read the spoilers for it. So I kind of I'm spoiled a little bit on it, but a lot of the characters are written either way differently or better than they were.
Interesting.
So, which a lot of people have said makes the show better than the original content for the most part. From what I'm hearing, like they're
I've seen that. I've seen people discuss that like the adaptation in the show is just completely different. A lot of the same plot, but just a lot of completely new elements, and so both can exist simultaneously. That you're not looking at kind of like a Game of Thrones that like, oh
yeah.
well, the books are always better or the show's always better or whatever. So yeah, I've seen that take a few times. That's interesting. I might have to check those out just to see what they're like.
Yeah, yeah. So, Micah, your thoughts on the boys?
It looks really interesting.
No, I know.
It looks like
I
it
know
would be
you
a
haven't.
great ride if I weren't so terrible with movies and TV shows.
No,
Yeah,
yeah, no.
you have to catch it at some time. Like Brett said
Oh
a,
yeah,
a couple weeks
yeah.
ago. It's what if superheroes were real, and what if they were terrible people, and what if they were ran by uh, a massive corporation and PR firm, and that's the boys. And the boys refers to this group of folks who are trying to
Well,
take them down,
well,
trying to.
it's basically following like what would be typically the villains. Like they're just regular people
Yes,
um,
yeah,
that got screwed over by but yeah, they all have legit reasons, but then they kind of become awful people along the way.
yes, they're
Um,
really bad too. They are
It
not good.
sounds it sounds like a real ride.
yeah,
Yeah,
I'm just
it
yeah.
it gets pretty dark, but like the saving grace is of the show is definitely the Deep because like he has like a really dark first. He's got a lot of funny moments, but it's really dark in the first season. Then the second season, it's kind it's way lighter.
yeah.
But yeah,
Micah, so did you finish Rage of Dragons? Was it a good book?
I did finish it. It was astounding. I definitely recommend it. It's got a really great tale. It got a really cool magic system and some great characters and just writing.
uh,
I really like this one.
okay.
Although I will,
Oh no, go ahead, go ahead. Sorry, I
it
have a
is
question
it is
though.
very
After.
dark. It is very violent, and the protagonist is going down a. I don't want to give too many spoilers because it's not a protagonist that has like a huge backstory that impacts him. It's sort of like this would be his backstory if you met him like 10 years from now, sort of deal. It's yeah, he's not completely likable, but you are following him in the hopes that he can he can become who he was at the beginning of the story again.
Hmm. So what else have you been watching and reading, Brett,
Um, well, I really
or doing at work or whatever?
Well, okay. Well, I do. I mean, I do have one. But so I just did. I did a quick. Um. Well, let's come back to that because I do want. I want to ask. Let's stick with Micah and the what's the book?
The
Rage.
Rage of
Rage
Dragons
Rage
by
of
Evan
Dragons.
Winter.
Yeah, because I own one of them on audiobooks, but it's completely out of order. Or no, it's not a part of the same series, but it's the same author. But it's called A Little Hatred. But I
That's
think
a different author.
is it? Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's a different author. Talk
So
about Evan Winter, not Joe Abercrombie.
oh, okay. So
So many of those fantasy authors
yeah,
blend together.
well, yeah. When you said super dark, I was like, okay, because I think we talked. I don't know. I got it jumbled in my head. But anyways,
There's a lot in that category.
so the magic system.
The magic
How,
system.
so how does that work? Because I kind of want to. I'm kind of interested in that and how that works.
So basically, you have this selection of women. I think the ratio is 1 in 1,000. I think I haven't read it in a few months. A couple small details are not quite there, but I think it's like 1 in 1,000 women have have an ability to tap into the power of the underworld, and essentially they can empower some of the men who are also gifted at, I believe, around or it's the men where it's 1 in 1,000. For the women, it's more like 1 in 100. Essentially, they can empower the men and make the men become basically Hulk monsters. From what I know, the some of like the lore is very much culturally based on like North Africa.
Okay, that's interesting.
As I'm pretty sure I have that right. I'm probably wrong, but there's a lot of like North African culture mixed into the tale of Rage of Dragons, and that's like the basic structure for the magic system. But there's a lot more into it.
Okay,
which I don't really want to give a lot away because it's very important for it.
So just to ask more about this, just in case anybody wants to, is it more like so it's not as European medieval based as like is it more?
It's got some European medieval-ish type thing, given that the culture the main character is in is very much a colonialist culture.
Okay, that's cool though. Yeah.
They came to this peninsula full of people that they call savages, and they want to wipe out. So now there's a huge war.
Oh.
What's the name of the fantasy realm that it's set in?
Hold on, let me grab the book.
Not to put you on the spot.
It'll be on the map. Because I've read a couple books since this one. But this is like my main one for the year. They landed on the peninsula, which is they typically just called the peninsula, but the far end of it is called the Fist. The ocean is called the Roar, which is like the best name for an ocean in fantasy that I've come across so far.
Oh yeah. Well, it's like it does remind me of like the like Storm's End and yeah.
Well, like the deal is that when they came to the peninsula, they were running from something, which I have no idea what that. I don't quite yet know what that is, but as of the point in which the story takes place, which is nearly 200 years after their landing, the ocean became more stormy and dangerous to the point where they were wondering, how did we get over here if these tiny little fishing boats can be destroyed so easily?
Oh, okay. So I'm definitely interested in this. So
definitely.
I know I've said that before, but like you've kind of explained it a little more. So and while waiting on the Winds of Winter, I definitely need.
Yeah, the prologue would definitely like satiate your thirst a little bit because there's big Daenerys vibes in there.
Okay, yeah. So I'm getting my paycheck next week, and that'll probably be like one of the first things I get.
It would actually be perfect timing because the next book in the series comes out in November.
Man, there's so many.
How long? How this one was just released, right?
It was released a few years ago, actually.
Oh, really? So it must have just
Yeah.
taken off recently because I just have seen discussion around it over the past.
It's like it's had like a gradual build up. The author self-published it first, then went to the r/fantasy subreddit and said, "Hey guys, check out my new book." And they all told him, "You should try traditional publishing because this will sell."
So maybe it was it just published by a publishing house in the past year or so?
I believe in the past couple years. I think it was just in the past couple years. It's by Orbit, which is a subset of one of the bigger corporations, so it's pretty high up for a publishing company.
That's pretty cool. I know nothing about it.
Okay,
So.
September 2017. Yeah, I didn't hear anything about this book until like the past 6 months. So that's good.
I started reading about it.
Well, I mean, I've saw other people.
Yeah.
Too, but
Daniel Green's been building up the hype on YouTube as well.
Yeah.
Well, I'm happy for I'm happy for that writer though too. Like, I mean, that's really awesome.
Yeah, the fact that he self-published it and then took it to Reddit, and then because Reddit's a trash pile sometimes.
Yeah.
And the fact that people were like, "Whoa, wait a minute, this is actually pretty good. You should, look into publishing it," and then it takes off from there. I mean, that's a great story.
That definitely interests me like more now that I know that too.
Yeah.
Not that like I would be like, I'm not gonna take your recommendations, Micah. Like I would just still eventually listen to it. But now I'm like super interested now that we're actually sitting down to
bump it up on your list.
Yeah.
Well,
there's not much of a list there, but it's more I've just been broke, so I'm like, because I think I'm super into these books called the first one's called We Are Legion, and I've definitely told you about this, Travis, but the side name is We Are Bob, and basically it's about like this guy who he's like a super nerd, and he gets rich because he invents some sort of app, and it's very vague, it's very quick, but that's just like a way to explain how he has money. And then he signs up for this weird thing, this company where they're going to cut his head off and like basically store it until they find the technology to revive him, but he just has the money to do it. And it's like this weird thing that he just randomly signed up for because he had the money to do it. And then he wakes up like a few hundred years later, and it's sort of a mild, I don't know. Okay, so skip like 10 seconds ahead. It's sort of, 30. Okay, it's because you find it out within the first couple chapters, but basically he finds out, and spoiler now, he finds out like he's a copy of his brain. He's not him, like he's not, the real Bob has died, but then he starts like copying himself, like as a program, and
so that has the title We Are Legion.
Yeah,
and play on like,
but like he starts naming, and he gets launched out into space as like a rocket, and they start exploring the universe, and then he starts copying himself and like using whatever technology he has to like build different Bobs and set up like establishments, and it gets really crazy really quick, and they're really quick, like quick reads, but like he starts like eventually like every Bob you find out takes on a little bit of a different personality, so they're learning that they're not exactly the same every time they copy themselves, and they also name themselves different things like they go by Goku, Bender, Phineas and Ferb, Homer, Yeah, it's really fun. Like there's
Those all sound like they have a theme to them.
yeah. Riker. Yeah. There's. Oh, man, I think there's one from Star Wars, and I can't remember which one it was. But I don't know. But yeah, no,
I'm gonna guess it was Boba Fett.
It wasn't. It wasn't because this guy,
okay.
because the writer.
That's just a guess.
So it's interesting. The writer is he's a German guy, and which I don't know. I find that not weird, but it's just like he knows all these terms, and I don't know. Maybe I'm American and I'm stupid, but I don't know. I just didn't expect it. But he has really obscure references in there too, which is really cool.
Interesting.
Yeah. But yeah, that's I know the newest one dropped. I think it's the 4th one.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah. So I heard, Travis, you got one of your things that you've read this year is a certain thing that's getting a new adaptation.
Dune. No, Dune. Geez, well, I've read a couple things that are getting new adaptations this year. The Stand and Dune.
Oh yeah.
I've actually since the beginning of the pandemic, I keep a list. I've read 22 books. Now, 5 of those are short stories. So, it's not usually too hard to get through a short story in a day or less.
Yeah.
But yeah, 22. I've been pretty proud of myself. So yeah, I've read the Dune series. Now, I've read 4 Dune books. There are 6 written by the original author, Frank Herbert. But on the recommendation of our friend Doc John in the fandom, he said, stop at book 4. You don't need to go any further. The rest are ridiculous and just cash grabs, especially the ones written by Frank Herbert's son.
It's like Lost season 3. Stop there.
Stop
there.
Yeah,
perfect show. Stop there.
I've long been a fan of Dune. Even though it's crazy, I like the David Lynch film from the 1980s.
Really?
It's not done well. I mean, well, let me back up. It's done well for the time period it was created, for the budget it had, and being David Lynch, he gets the weirdness of Dune, but it was chopped together. He didn't have final cut, and it's actually the movie that David Lynch said, I'm never not having final cut of my films after this.
Okay.
So the studio tried to chop it together, and they just did a terrible job. And the acting is a little strange. But if you've read Dune, you know that the material is weird. It's very high. High. No, I was going to say high fantasy. It's very like hard science fiction. Like, you understand the way the ecology works. You have a pretty good understanding of how the economy of this empire works.
Yeah.
You have it's not necessarily explained, but you understand how the physics of space travel work because of the spice. The spice, that is the commodity that keeps these noble families in power, is what also gives the power for prescience and for folding space to travel and stuff. So it would be a very hard film to adapt, but Denis Villeneuve is adapting, and he's the guy who did Blade Runner 2049, which is a phenomenal film. And I mean, when it was announced he was doing a sequel to Blade Runner, everyone was like, oh wow, this is, Blade Runner is one of the best science fiction films ever, and it has such a cult following, and you're like, is he really going to attempt this? And he did it, and it was a great film. So I'm really looking forward to that adaptation. I'm sure it's going to get moved. It's currently supposed to come out in December, but because of COVID and people not going to the theaters, Dune is something I will gladly pay to watch on my TV just because I want to see it, but I also want that experience of going to the theaters and see it. But yeah, I read the first four. So I read Dune, which is like from 1965. Dune Messiah is the second book. Children of Dune and God Emperor of Dune.
Well, okay, so I've never read Dune. I know people talk a lot about it. As someone that has never seen Dune or read the books, that the earlier film, should I watch that? You know, just not knowing anything about it, just to experience it, because I like David Lynch. So,
Yeah, I think
but I understand because he didn't have Final Cut, because there's a thing.
Well, he didn't have Final Cut, and then it's very 80s. Like it,
Yeah,
you know, it fits into those very cheesy 80s sci-fi movies, so
which I could I can expect
right.
that. You know, like
Like
I know what I'm
yeah,
getting
and
into
I think
there.
that's the problem is that, like I said, Dune is weird, but it's not weird like Lynch made it. I
Oh,
mean,
okay.
he gets some of the aesthetic of you know, this is just to give a very basic description of the plot. You know, this is it's sort of people especially today describe it as Game of Thrones in space because it's feuding noble families, um, fighting over control of this desert planet called Arrakis, also known as Dune, and the spice, the commodity that runs everything, is only found on this planet, and so you this one minor noble family takes charge of the planet and is sort of um, dropped into the middle of a trap, and you get a very typical hero's journey with the son of this duke. His name is Paul Atreides. He becomes the hero. But then Herbert does like Martin does, and he just turns the genre on its head. So he gives you a pretty, like I said, a pretty standard epic.
Yeah.
Of you know, a young man, kind of like a Luke Skywalker type, finding out that he has powers, you know, leading a revolution, etc.
So the hero's arc.
But then Herbert, in the way that he frames the hero and in the subsequent novels, says maybe leaders shouldn't be trusted. Maybe, you know, maybe Messiah, hero worship, is not a good thing. And yeah, it's just a really, like, it's, if you really want to think after reading something, you should read Dune, because when I first read it, like I said, I'd watched the Lynch movie back when I was younger, but I think I picked up, I think it was like my freshman year of college. I picked up like an old copy of Dune, and I read it then, and I remember liking it, but I was like, this is like, I don't understand this. Like, I don't know what's happening. These terms are so out there, you know, because it's set like 10,000 years in the future. But yeah, I decided I'm going to reread it. And I did so at the beginning of the pandemic, and I couldn't put it down. And you know, I think part of it was being excited that there was going to be a new movie and all that. But yeah, I mean, it's a phenomenal series, and
Oh yeah.
actually, Grant and I, Heathen King, our friend on Twitter, Grant and I are kind of going through the novel and picking out things that we think influenced A Song of Ice and Fire, because, you know, we all discuss that Lord of the Rings is like, you know, the seminal fantasy series. Okay, think about it.
So I was about to ask this.
Yes.
But
think,
you're about to get into it, so
yeah, think about Lord of the Rings as the seminal fantasy series ever.
yeah.
If that's the seminal fantasy series, in my opinion, Dune is the seminal science fiction series.
Okay.
So look at those.
So
Those
that's
two
a okay. So that seems like a must read. Yeah.
Yes, and we know that George is a huge fan of fantasy. He's a huge fan of horror, a huge fan of comic books, all these things. He's also a huge fan of science fiction, and he started off in science fiction. And so Grant and I have looked at this and discussing it with Frank and Jeff and others over on the Nauticast. Like, you can see a lot of similarities in plot and in characters, etc. Now, part of that goes back to the fantasy trope, to the hero's journey trope. Like, you could overlay Star Wars, Dune, Lord of the Rings, A Song of Ice and Fire, and you'll come up with some pretty basic structures, right? You're always going to find these in a lot of myth and legend in our own world, and so part of it's that, but part of it is things that I think George was like, being in college and being a writer starting off in the 60s and reading Dune, and that's the thing, like the time period that George grew up in, Dune was kind of the holy grail of fiction for people. So yeah, it's a really phenomenal series. Like,
definitely.
It's just so good. It's
I'll definitely get around to it someday in my life.
What's bad though too is I've never read Lord of the Rings. I've done the movies, but I heard that the movies do a lot of. I don't know. I can't speak to it. I'm going to do it one day, but now I kind of want to go. No, I have not done it.
Hold on, Brett. What?
Yep. Okay, but we're gonna get off this subject real quick. I haven't read Dune either, but I want to read both of those because you have the fantasy. You have
Hold on, Brett. What?
No. But Micah did some. Shut up, Micah. Micah, you did something that we've been bugging you about, and I'm. You know what? You can be ashamed of me. You have every right. Because you finally read the first Duncan Egg novella.
Oh yeah,
right? Or have you read more since then?
Did you read the other ones too?
You did?
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna read the other ones soon.
Oh, so you just did the first one?
So did you buy the Night of the Seven Kingdoms?
Yeah, I have that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I mean,
how did you gave us a little clue in our DM? What did you think of the Hedge Knight?
Well, I thought it was pretty great. I really enjoyed getting this look at Westeros on a much smaller scale with this character who isn't a Stark, Targaryen, or Lannister, has basically nothing in common with any of those except for the events in the story. And Dunk is a pretty cool dude, and I'm catching all the Brienne parallels. Like, are there no true knights amongst you? That was an epic scene.
Have you been spoiled on who Dunk is? Okay.
I have.
Okay.
I know all of. I knew what would happen to Baelor Targaryen way ahead of time, and like I was reading through the night, and I saw a passage on the next page, and I was like, oh, it starts there. I'm not doing this tonight. I'll do it tomorrow.
Before you continue though, I want to say that the two other books, it's kind of cool because the last one's a major event, or it's told like in the history like it's a major event, but it really was. It kind of isn't, but it's told like it was. So like it's like it's not really spoiled as much. Like it's not.
Yeah. I think mostly I've had the Hedge Knight spoiled for me, and then a little bit of Sworn Sword, and then I'm not sure about Mystery Knight.
Sworn. I don't know how
just
you would.
Rohan Weber for Sworn Sword, basically.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Because of Song of Madness.
Yeah,
Oh well,
well, yeah, but you don't. I think when you read Sworn Sword, you're gonna find that it's more
yeah,
like one, you're gonna get a dose of the Blackwood Bracken thing, so you're gonna enjoy it from that perspective.
Oh yes, I will
And
immensely.
then two, you're going to see, because George does it masterfully, you're going to get to see him sort of pull back the curtain and show you the first, like his first unveiling of the Blackfire Rebellion.
Yes,
And
that's one thing I'm excited for is Blackfires and getting
yeah,
into them.
and he does it with such a good way of giving you the perspectives of it's like in the main series when
When you think you
visit
know a thing, and then the thing
well
turns out
that
to be-
too, but
yeah.
you visit a different castle and you get a different perspective of the Lord. Well, why should I support Stannis Baratheon? He never did anything for me. Renly's the one who um you know uh protected our land, or whatever. Like you get that perspective, like on the very ground level of how feudalism works. And so that's something interesting to read in the Sworn Sword. I think most people
Yeah.
kind of dismiss that one, but there's so many iconic moments in Sworn Sword. I mean, there's so many iconic moments in all three. I mean, they're just so great. And I kind of think of, if I was ever able to even conceive of writing a fantasy series, I think the fantasy series I'd want to write is something like the Dunk and Egg novellas, because they're a lot of fun. You get to lace in, a lot of history and world building, but it's not like it's not that it doesn't matter. It's not like you have to complete everything. You can just like filter
Yeah,
in.
it's episodic, and
Exactly.
those are really good. In like, especially in this case, because we know the world, we know the setting already. This adds. This is the icing on the cake.
yes, and
It's just that perfect little icing with
like
some strawberries on
actually,
top.
it's like a scoop of ice cream on the side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A big piece of chocolate.
What? Okay, so let's get back to you, Micah. Like, okay, what? I don't know. Like, just tell us a little bit. I don't know. Just whatever thoughts pop in your head. Like, I don't know about. Like, what were your first thoughts going into it? Whatever. Just
well, once I'm sure many fans had this thought, but as soon as Maekar Targaryen said, "Some will think that I killed my brother," I went, Stannis.
Yep.
Even a side by side of fan art of those two people, like they're like scowling.
Yeah.
Maekar is my favorite Targaryen.
Yes, I like him too.
Yeah.
He seems pretty rad so far.
Yeah.
Aerion was very Viserys. I was like, this is why everyone hates you.
Yeah. So Aerion is he's Viserys, but Aerion can back his shit up, which makes him a little more scary. Because Viserys couldn't do it. Like,
right. Aerion can really call soldiers in to burn down.
Yeah. Well, and he could actually fight.
That's because Aerion didn't have the Beggar King persona.
Yeah. True. I mean,
living out on the streets when he was young.
But yeah, they are. And there's another character, I would say, in the third book that if Viserys had a good life and was surrounded by like people that did his bidding, he would probably be a lot like this character too. Which I think, Travis, you know what I'm talking about, because you could see if it went wrong for that character, he'd be that.
Yes.
But I don't want to spoil it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna just throw a wild guess, and I'm like, is it Jaehaerys too?
No.
Okay, just thought I'd guess.
It may not even be a Targaryen.
May not be a Targaryen.
You want to try and go into the Mystery Knight. That's the third one. Unspoiled if you can, because it's just I just love how he, like,
It's
the
like a
ending to me,
mystery. It's a mystery.
it is.
Like it
It's a
really
mystery.
is.
Like you're there. There are several things that you're trying to figure out in that novella. I just love the ending of that one so much. I just
Yeah, I
so
can't wait to
good.
get into it.
I
Yeah,
Good.
I took.
I had
Go ahead, Micah. Sorry.
I had one moment during reading The Hedge Knight. It was one of the scenes with the Fossilway brothers, and I'm like, these two are pretty cool. I
Yeah.
can't wait to see. And then Stepan comes back and he's like, I'm fighting for Arion now, and I'm like,
but it's such a small moment, and then that's where the red and green apples.
That's where you get the red, that's where you get the divide for the Fosways and the build up for Franklin Flowers to kill one of them later. Yeah.
But you get to see it's such a small moment, and then it's like has like huge ramifications.
It does.
But that's what I like about
the
these.
Beauty of the minor characters.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. And I think that's actually why I really like this too, is because it's basically like the minor characters, but you center around them, and then they all have like huge impacts in the main.
I also want to say that the Brute of Bracken, Otho, that's like Otho Bracken is a very awesome name.
Yes.
It's a very epic
name. What's the Baratheon's name in the Hedge Knight?
Lionel, the
Laughing Storm. Yeah,
I love him. I love
how he's just like Raymond Fosway is like, oh, I have to be knighted. Ah, man. And then Lionel's like, you know what, Dunk, go do your thing. I got this.
Yeah. No, and that's what's cool about him, because you could totally like if Robert had like grown up the way, like if he was never king, he's Lionel.
Yeah,
he's Lionel in that situation.
He's like Tormund from the show.
Yeah.
And the books.
Nah, I don't give a shit.
Tormund is there at the Baratheon. Yeah, I'll knight him. Here we go.
Like, you want to fight beside me? I got you.
From tournament to tournament, fighting in a melee. Yeah, that's Robert.
Tormund is just the Northern Baratheon.
I really like the relationship that's revealed between Baelor and Maekar. I thought that was good. That, like, again, there's a perfect example of like if Robert was capable and wasn't a fat drunk, and worked with his brother, like that's kind of the relationship there that you can see, and I love that.
It is.
The hammer and the anvil. And it's so funny because
they actually did care about each other too. Like they actually did love each other.
They did, yeah. And what's funny about the Hedge Knight is, and of course it's because George didn't really finish the concept of the Blackfires at that point, but there's no mention of the Blackfires at all, and the time setting. This should be very, very close. 3 or 4 years since the end of the first Blackfire rebellion. And so, looking back and reading it, you're kind of like, man, it's strange that the Blackfires are not mentioned. But it's because he hadn't developed it yet. But you get more information on Baelor and Maekar later as the hammer and the anvil, the folks that broke the Battle of the Redgrass Field, and help stop.
Oh, yeah. So I definitely look forward to those too.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. You'll get some more, but yeah.
Oh yeah.
So I've like I said, I've been reading another series too, and I've got one book to go, and that's the Dark Tower series by Stephen King, and I really love this series. This is going to be an interesting one to see how it ends, because it's one of those series that the first book came out in the 80s, and it was like 82, and he finished it in 2004, and so there's a lot of time and age and perspective that shifts there, but I finished let's see, there are 7 books. I finished the 6th book. There are technically 8 books, but one is 4.5, so it comes in between the other ones. So I've
Okay.
got one to go. It'll take me a while to get through it because it's a monster of a book. But just the concept of it is pretty cool. And it's something I'd definitely like to see adapted at some point. But it's there's so much going on in it. Are either of you familiar with that series?
Not I have funny, whatever. I can't say it, but anyways, I have a bunch of the books. But I've never
I have
opened
a couple
them.
of the
So
books, and someone in my family's read it all and is a huge Stephen King fan. So
yeah,
I know of them. And
I read it, but
God, yeah, that's a lot.
That one's all. Oh God,
I've had a bunch of his books for a long time, but I was just never, I like Stephen King. I even the terrible adaptation movies I always loved.
I mean,
but I decided, again during the pandemic, I was like, okay, I've got all this time. I finished the Dune series, or at least the part that I was going to read. I read some other short stories and stuff, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna read some Stephen King. I'm gonna finally break down. So I started off with Cycle of the Werewolf, which is a short story, and it's adapted into Silver Bullet, which is one of my favorite 80s horror films. And so that was a nice little entry. And then I jumped right into The Stand, which I absolutely love. The Stand is a great book. It's going to be adapted on CBS All Access in December.
Okay.
And it's kind of, not exactly the circumstances we're living through, because in The Stand, like 99% of the people die off from a flu pandemic. But it's kind of. Are you singing to yourself?
No, I'm just humming.
Oh, okay.
No, not nothing to do with anything.
No, that has nothing to do with anything.
Yeah.
And then I was like, okay. And after I read The Stand, I took a couple of the first books of The Dark Tower to the beach with me, and was just instantly hooked. And so
nice.
You've probably heard this, but the story starts off with that really famous erudite line: the man in black fled into the desert, and
the gunslinger followed.
Gunslinger followed, and it's just such a good line.
That's a good opening. Yeah.
And so the first book is just this really. He wrote the story after watching The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. So he adapted.
Okay.
He made the main character basically a Clint Eastwood type gunslinger, a cowboy, but it's this weird where they're cowboys, but it's set in a fantasy medieval world. So basically, gunslingers are knights. They travel around. They protect the innocent. They enact justice. All of these type of things. But you're dealing with a very American West type world. So I've always liked westerns and stories like that. And so it being set in a fantasy, and then it gets very horror and science fiction and fantasy, and there's not to give anything away, but the premise is this gunslinger is trying to get to the Dark Tower, and the Dark Tower is kind of like the nexus point of everything, of every timeline, of every dimension, all of the stuff. And so starting the last book soon, and they're almost to the Dark Tower, and so it's just been a wild ride, and I'm looking forward to getting there.
That end point is familiar to me because I watched that shitty movie.
Did you watch it?
Yeah, I did. And
I haven't.
I
kind of think, do I? And I'm actually gonna message Vanessa, from Needful King, and our friend who's been on the podcast, and
VK.
Like I kind of want to watch the movie, but I also let me say it like this: I don't want to watch the movie after and have that be the only thing in my mind related to the Dark Tower. So, but
I
am I
don't.
able to watch it before and then and then read the final book? I'm not sure
Yeah.
what I'm going to do.
I'm so glad I
Yeah.
watched it years ago, and I remember nothing about it, but yeah, I do remember the gunslinger trying to get into the tower.
Yeah.
But Micah, did you?
I was just gonna say I've not read the books, but I have
Okay.
seen the Dark Tower movie.
Oh, really?
Was it awful? I don't
Yeah.
remember it. But it was it was forgetful. I think.
Yeah, I think that's like the main. It felt like kind of like the Seventh Son movie that was an adaptation of a different book series.
Oh, yeah, okay.
It felt like something that they wanted to like give money towards, sort of grab sort of thing. Maybe, I don't know. It's
it's
which is unfortunate because like it had Idris Elba as the gunslinger and Matthew McConaughey as the Man in Black.
Yeah,
which
it's actually not bad casting.
No,
I wouldn't think so either.
It's funny. Probably the first 4 books, all I saw in my mind was Idris Elba as the gunslinger. So, subconsciously, I had absorbed, even though I hadn't seen the movie, I had absorbed that image, and he's very good in it, like a steely faced kind of way, reminding you of the character Roland Deschain, which is the real name of the gunslinger, and so. But now that I'm farther along, I don't see him anymore. I'm starting to see a Clint Eastwood type guy again. But yeah, it's just I'll be interested to see how it ends, because there's some parts of the book that are just like they literally go to Oz at one point in the book. The Wizard of Oz. They go to Oz, and you're like, what? What is the? And of course, a lot of it is just based on how the Man in Black plays with the gunslinger and other folks. But there's a lot of overlap between the series and other Stephen King novels, because he uses elements from other books, and so he kind of weaves together this kind of Stephen King multiverse. And even in this latest book, he puts himself in it, which I'm not yet sure how I feel about that, but okay. You're like, what?
Yeah,
Wait,
yeah.
Stephen King's house? No. Wait, what?
Yeah.
yeah.
But so okay, so I think we should do this more often too, and I think I have a bit. I've just in my mind. I think I'm like I have a formula. Like maybe we start off with and you know what, we can leave this in here. Maybe people can decide if they want to hear this, but like we start off like Ketchup, maybe on the week or whatever, however long it's been. Then we could do like one book that we've read, a movie that we've watched, and then like whatever is going on at the time too.
I like that. So there's a podcast I listen to called Beyond the Screenplay, and they
I've heard of it. Yeah,
really, really good movie podcast. And what they do is they discuss a film, they talk about its screenplay, and just all kinds of things with the movie. But then at the end, they do 2 things. They end with 2 questions. The first question is, what lesson are you taking from this screenplay, from this movie, this film? And then they also end, what have you been reading or watching? And then they each go around and talk about one thing. So I think I think you're right. I mean, we're going to talk about more here, obviously, but just to catch up.
Well, this is and this is the first one, obviously, so it's going to be. Yeah. But I kind of want. I've been really wanting. I don't know. I've always wanted to do like a live stream, even if like 5 people are watching. It might be fun. But we could maybe do this. Maybe if no pressure to any both of you guys, but I would like it. But
I think it would be fun to do at some point. I mean,
yeah.
I
would.
We could have a topic. We could watch something. We could have questions.
It would even be kind of fun.
One of the things we've been talking about is, I don't think I'm at the point where I want to rewatch Game of Thrones just because that seems like such a commitment.
No, yeah.
But maybe if we think about rewatching some episodes, we could each choose one and we could rotate, or we could all come up with a list together and decide, okay, these are the 20 episodes we're going to watch, and we could just kind of watch them at some point and provide some commentary.
Yeah.
We could watch the pilot, and then we could watch the finale right after and see how they are.
But it would be, yeah. But it would be kind of cool though to do this, but like it would be cool to do this though and have it as a live stream, like where we don't have like a subject or like we're just here to talk. But we get if anybody joins, and they can they can talk to us, and then we can like kind of throw around, it might make it more entertaining too. And I like it. Like I said, I don't expect more than like 5 to 10 people, maybe 0. But I would still we'd still be doing this. I mean, that's how we expect. I mean, that's how we started out. Like we were just talking. So
yeah.
But
that would definitely be cool.
Yeah, Micah, you join later. Okay, no, I'm just playing. And people were already listening. No, I'm just playing. But actually, Micah, like your first episode, you kind of like doubled our fans. So
no, I didn't.
I think you did.
I think it was just the Blackwood attention.
It might have been. No, I'm just playing. But no, there was a huge. That's not why we invited you on. But there was a huge spike in listens.
Mike and his at that point like 100 Twitter followers, like fourth legions of Idahoans. Is that what you say, Idahoan?
And I don't know.
No, I literally there's no one in the fandom who also lives in Idaho.
Hey, I mean that's awesome though.
I think the closest is Reds, and that's about it.
He lives in like Washington or something.
He's in Oregon.
Okay.
That's pretty close, actually.
One more book I wanted to mention before we wrap up tonight.
Well, I have a couple.
I'll come back. Okay. Go ahead, Brett.
Okay. So movies. So I'm just gonna throw out like I've been watching a shit ton of movies, but the ones that stick out to me are Ready or Not. If you haven't seen that, watch it. It's a dark comedy. It's literally a killer game of hide and seek. It's basically a hide and seek, but
for me, I've been watching a lot of movies due to being in the Here Be Dragons Slack that they have. Here Be Dragons from like Twitter. They do
Nessie and
Steven and John. They have weekly watch parties, so I've been watching movies that way. But Steven just had a stream on the Ghost in the Shell anime movie. So I just watched that, and it's phenomenal.
Really?
I'm like, that is a classic right there. That is just something to behold.
You'd be mad at me because I've never seen that, but
I did not before today. But I've only heard good things, and I watched it once, and I'm like, yep.
Because
that is a lot of stuff right there. That just got
Because I know, Micah, you're huge into anime, and I'm sort of huge. Okay. Well, I'm so vanilla in it, but I've watched Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood,
like 20 anime.
But
small.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I'm less than you, but but yeah. Anyways,
Oh,
Travis.
Oh yeah, I was gonna mention this one. Oh, I think it takes place near the Idaho border. Maybe it doesn't. So it's I think it's pronounced Devolution, by Max Brooks. And Max Brooks wrote World War Z.
Okay.
And so World War Z, of course, is the the story of like a zombie apocalypse, and it's told from the perspective of journalists. And Devolution is the story, and this isn't spoiling anything because this is in the title of the book and in the
Okay.
first page of the book. It's the story of the Mount Rainier Bigfoot massacre. And if you know me, you know I'm a huge fan of anything Bigfoot. Like, I will, doesn't matter what it is, I will stop my day.
West Virginia, yeah.
If something, what?
West Virginia, yep.
I wish Bigfoot was in West Virginia. Mama. Oh God, Bigfoot mama.
Snoo.
So, let me just. Anyway, I'll talk about this book and then I'll tell you one quick story and we'll close out the night. So, yeah, this book is basically it's like journal entries from a not a commune. It's their state-of-the-art homes, but they live out in the middle of nowhere, in Washington State, but it's in very western Washington State. And so the premise of the book is Mount Rainier explodes. There's an eruption, and Bigfoot, a family of Bigfoots or whatever of Bigfoots, comes east and comes onto this community, which has been cut off by lava flow. And you're getting like journal entries, and there's someone investigating what happened to this community. And it's kind of frightening because, these people are out in the middle of nowhere. The technology doesn't work because the satellites are down, but the Wi-Fi is down, all of these things. And it's just, and he does this way he did with these epigraphs in the beginning, or epitaphs in the beginning, that relay like really old Bigfoot sightings, like real world Bigfoot sightings.
Yeah.
And they sort of clue in on, oh shit, this is going to happen in this chapter, or there's going to be some rock throwing, or there's going to be some banging, or there's going to be not banging.
There's a lot of banging in this chapter.
People say that, well, primates communicate with sticks,
banging
on other sticks and rocks, making noises, and that's been cited in Bigfoot encounters of hearing these kind of sounds. Anyways, so long story short, yes, I do live in West Virginia, and I grew up in a very, very rural part of the state. So my grandfather did not farm, but he had a huge farm, and his house was like it was built like before the Civil War. So he had this old farmhouse. Well, my parents built a house like on one end of the property, like on a hillside, right up next to woods. And so my bedroom was on the side of the house that faced the woods. So one night, so this is just.
Oh no, I can't wait for this. I'm so excited for the story.
I'll start off with this funny part.
Okay.
So I used to watch like anything about Bigfoot, ghosts.
Oh yeah, no, I did too.
Whatever. So I was watching it in our living room. My dad was asleep, So he was like asleep in the recliner, asleep in the couch, and he like wakes up, he like stumbles up the stairs, he like stops, he looks back, and he's like, "What are you watching?" I'm like, "Oh, something about Bigfoot or ghosts or alien." He's like, "Well, whatever you do, don't try to get in bed with us tonight if you're scared." I was like 17. I was like, I wasn't going to get in bed with it. I wasn't actually that old. I was probably like 13 or something. So anyway, my mom had this thing, like my parents like hated turning on the air conditioning, but I like the air conditioning on because I would get too hot. But also I have really bad allergies, so I didn't want the windows open at night because I would wake up just completely congested or whatever. So I go to bed, I go upstairs, I go to bed. Now, like I said, my window was facing the woods, but our house was built like into the hillside. So our first floor was part basement, the back part, because it was below ground. So even though my parents and I were on the same level, their bedroom was on the second floor. Mine was on the second floor, but you could stand on the ground and look into my window. So like I go to bed, I'm crawling in bed. I'm like too tired. I'm not going to close the window. I'm just laying there. I'm kind of dozing off, and I just hear. And I'm like, I kind of like lay there, and I'm like, what's that noise? I'm like kind of rolling around, and so like you can't see me obviously because this is podcast, but like, the head of my bed was against the wall, and like to my right was the window. Like I said, I forgot to close the window.
I know exactly where this is going.
I see this shadow moving. I'm like, oh fuck, what the fuck? What am I gonna do? What am I gonna do? I'm like, oh my god, Bigfoot is at my window. This is it. I'm dead.
I was gonna think,
old boy, I'm gonna be killed.
I was gonna say, it was Lady Gwen. We're back in the basement again.
Yeah, we're back in the basement. So finally, I muster up the courage. I just propel myself from the bed, flip the light on, turn around, and there's a deer just like staring in my window.
What? Okay.
Well, I was expecting it to be your grandfather.
No, it was on my grandfather. No, he was dead by then.
You know what's messed up is you've told the first part of that story, I think in episode 1. I can't remember if it was episode 1 or it was the Halloween episode.
This is part 2.
Yeah, you set it up like 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Because you definitely told the first part of that story.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a different,
all the stuff watching stuff and
yeah.
I'm so glad things are coming full circle.
Yeah, but that's crazy because I was like, I think I've heard this story, but then I didn't hear that it was a deer. It was a
deer. It was a deer looking in.
That's crazy.
Because there was like a spring, a natural spring on our hillside, and so deer would come down there and drink at night. So yeah, it was. I was just thankful it wasn't a Bigfoot. There was like one night, well, 2 other nights. One night where a prisoner escaped, and yes, and there were, we never saw anything, but there were like state police all around, and there were like 2 state police officers like in my dad's tree stand. Like one of them was in the tree stand waiting, to see if someone would come through because the guy lived somewhat near, like he grew up somewhat near where I did, and so they were thinking, okay, well, he might try to come back here, and so people were like staked out in the woods.
I wonder.
Sorry,
no, go ahead.
The scariest thing, if you've never heard it, it will frighten you to death, is a bobcat.
I thought you were going to say a fox.
No, foxes don't really scare me, but they do make some weird noises.
Yeah, my mom was
a bobcat can mimic. Well, I shouldn't say they can mimic.
Okay.
because I don't think that they intentionally mimic humans, but they sound like a woman screaming. Like they will, like when they're
Really?
mating or when they're making a call at night or whatever. It
'Cause
sounds like a human being screaming.
that's because I thought a fox kind of does too. Because
That is creepy.
we
I
heard
would
of
not want to hear that in the woods at night.
No, you do not. And again, you don't want to hear
No,
that when
yeah.
you're like 11 and your window's open. No, you
no,
don't want
that's
to hear that.
no, that's scary.
So
I wonder how many trail cams have caught like prisoners running through the woods.
I don't know. That's something now I'm going to go Google and probably
Yeah,
lay
because
until 3 a.m. looking at. Thank you, Brad.
yes,
That's
well,
going on to the writers.
well, because
history.
well, like I grew up like like the way you described your basement. Like I mean, that's our basement. You know, that's just how it's set up. Because Georgia's all hills too, but we all it's all woods. So but I know a lot of hunters. Like a lot of my friends, that's what they do. They go out and like I'll get deer jerky from them every once in a while. When they kill a deer. I saw him skin a deer. I didn't want. I was eating barbecue at the time, watching him do it, and I had to leave the room because I was like, "This is not, this is not working for me." But I don't know. Yeah, I grew up around all that, but yeah, no, it's. But no, I don't know. It just popped in my head just then. I was like,
yeah, no, it's. I mean, we're all.
But it exists. It exists. Like,
oh, absolutely, Bigfoot exists. It's out there, people.
that too, but it's been on camera. Jack Links has proof.
Jack Links does have proof.
I saw a random Facebook post about it. It has to be true.
Yes.
You're kind of in Bigfoot country there, Micah.
No.
Well, yes, but I'm deflecting.
He is not going to confirm nor deny.
You can't say anything.
Yeah, I'm not. That's why you never hear anything from Idaho. We're just like, nothing to see here. Move along.
It's the whole state is area.
Oregon. It's cooler.
The whole state is Area 52, and that they're the actual, like Area 51's the.
Area 51's another deflection.
Yeah. See, he would say it.
He absolutely would.
Before we wrap up, I do want to mention something. So, I am currently I'm gonna be running sound for these some interviews. I'm involved with this documentary. It's locally based from Atlanta, about Black Lives Matter.
Nice.
Ooh.
And I just wanted to mention it. I've shared it on Twitter and stuff. But they don't need donations, but that would be helpful, because when a lot of people don't know, like it's just well, it's not even common courtesy. It's sort of expected. Like if you bring a crew together, especially right now, food should be provided. But right now, since it's like a pandemic, it's especially hard. Just because you got to keep everything separated. So like it would go to that. It would go to any equipment rentals. I think they're gonna rent some lavs, which are the interview microphones. I don't own them yet. I will buy. Like I'm going to buy them eventually, but I'm still starting out. So like I have my main mic that you're hearing right now, but anyways, none of this money is going towards me or anything. It's towards just equipment rentals or food. And with independent filming, it's food is like your biggest spending thing. But anyways, it's I don't know. I don't know why I went on that weird tangent, but it's about the Black Lives Matter movement in Atlanta specifically, but they're willing, like it's depending on how it goes, they might have to do it broader, but
yeah,
I don't know. It's important to me, and
that's awesome.
Yeah, and so I'll be sharing some links. Maybe we'll put some links in here if we release this.
Yeah,
and just to help out. Because I know we get, I don't know, we don't get a lot of viewers per episode, but I get more than I ever like thought I would, or
Yeah.
I mean, we get like 100 on the first day, and then it kind of builds up over the week. But
yeah.
So even if everyone donated $1, that's still $100 more than
Right.
So
get the Dragonstone garrison watching us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
But
there's like
Does that mean we have our own? We have our own Rolling Storm.
Yeah.
Oh fuck yeah, we do.
Isn't there a song about that? Oh, it's the Rolling Wind chasing the storm or something. Whatever.
Okay. All right. I think this is a good place as me to wrap it up. So.
All right.
I know it's getting late for you guys.
It is. I stayed 30 minutes past when I was supposed to, but
it's not that we're old. It's just that Mike is like 2-3 hours behind us.
I'm just
two.
It's
Okay.
8:28.
Okay, we're old, so just add an hour. But yeah.